Hey, it's Mike from Defense Strategies Group, and today I'm going to talk about the position of your buttstock on your gun. So when you see guys who have the buttstocks all the way out, a lot of times they're bigger people, at least when it's properly used. A lot of it has to do with the relationship of the length of your neck and the length of your collarbone. For me, all the way out when I'm standing, it takes me too far back from my sights, my iron sights. If I were using my magnifier, there's a lot of parallax that I'll get from that. It's the wrong fit for me. Going too far in, the downside is your arm gets really choked up and you end up torquing your wrist and you don't get consistency in your grip and in the movement.
One point that Mike alluded to that is an important consideration is the length of pull concept. That is the length between the end of your buttstock and the trigger, okay? And so how do you know what the appropriate distance is? From a purely marksmanship perspective, right, the way that you measure that is to throw the end of the buttstock into the crook of your arm, and your trigger finger should rest comfortably at the pad of your trigger finger onto the trigger itself. If you are taking purely marksmanship, long-range shots, this is something that you're going to weigh heavily. However, from an AR platform and a combat shooting perspective, you have more considerations to take into account. From a CQB standpoint, right, the shortest buttstock would be the easiest to manipulate, to transition from your offhand to your strong hand side, to throw behind you and work yourself over a wall if you needed to climb something, right? But there's also going to be a detriment to that. Okay, so ideally you need to find that happy medium that works for you and works well with whatever platform you're carrying. Ideally, whatever you're shooting cross-pollinates between both and you have a minimal shift in your system.
Another thing we want to mention is iron sights, right? Iron sights, those things that we used to use and maybe you've heard of, but you've never quite used them. Maybe you bought them thinking, oh, I'm supposed to have them, but you've probably never sighted them in. But these iron sights that we have on our gun, old school iron sight shooting, it's a skill that's almost lost these days. People don't realize that the length of your buttstock and your eye relief to that rear sight, the accuracy is completely dependent on consistency of where your face is. So for instance, if you sight in your red dot and you're all the way back here, but you've never sighted in your iron sight, well, if you have to use the iron sight's going to be completely different based on if you change this, where your face goes. For instance, if my face sights in here on my iron sight, but then I decide, just for comfort, that I'm going to put my buttstock back here, well, now I'm getting in a completely different sight picture. So something that's really important wherever you put your buttstock is that you sight in these iron sights where you have the buttstock. But talking about now placement, where we put the buttstock, the biggest thing I see people doing is they bring buttstock to shoulder and then they bring head down and shrug shoulder. They come here. Okay, we don't ever want to bring our head or our eyes to the gun. We want to bring the gun to our eyes. So I bring the buttstock to face. We bring to face, straight back, to the face and straight back. And it sits in this little pocket inside my collarbone, and it's about an inch or two above my shoulder. Now, you might not think that's a lot of grip, but you have this entire rubber buttstock grip on there, and it brings the gun to your eyes, so you don't have to move, you don't have to adjust your body position. So once again, I'm here, I present to the cheek, and I slide back into the pocket, all right? And the same from low ready, I would establish the buttstock high into my shoulder so that when I rise, it comes to my face. I don't have to go down to the gun. So that's the placement of your buttstock, right? It's not going to be all the way out usually, unless you're like a giant dude or you're taking long marksmanship shots and that's all you do with the gun. And it's rarely going to be all the way in. Smaller people, shorter clavicle, shorter neck, tend to have it closer in. Or if you're going to close quarters combat inside a house, you might bring it all the way in. Now let's go ahead and show you what it looks like in practice.